Lance Berkman is our guest. Thanks for being with us, bud.
Hey, thanks, Michael.
Why did you speak out?
Well, it's just I guess maybe one of my faults as a person or with my personality is I'm not afraid to share my opinion in pretty much any setting. So it was it was just a deal that I talked to Dr. Young over at Second Baptist, and he made me aware of what was going on, which I hadn't really even heard that much about it. And I thought, well, if I hadn't heard a whole lot about it, there's probably a lot of people out there that don't really know what this ordinance is all about, and so I decided that it was time to say something. And I feel like that whenever you have an opportunity to share your opinion, and not in a offensive way, or not in a way that would turn people off, but just when you have an opportunity to stand for something that you believe in strongly, then you ought to speak up. And I think that when we don't take those opportunities, we are doing ourselves and our communities a disservice. And I think that part of the problem, or the root of some of the problems that we see now in society, is that people haven't taken those chances, and they haven't put themselves on the line. They haven't stood for what they believe in strongly. And if you don't do that, then the other side will always win.
Lance, some very nasty things were said about you, including from the mayor after that. Did that surprise you? Well,
surprise is probably the wrong word. I was a little disappointed. I mean, you would think that I just felt like I didn't expect that the other side would be thrilled about my position or my opinion on it. I didn't expect that they would have nice things to say about me or my family, but I was a little bit, I guess, disappointed that the mayor said what she said or tweeted what she tweeted. And by the way, I mean, I'm not on Twitter. I don't do Facebook. I'm not a social media guy. So a lot of this quote unquote persecution is digital. I mean, it's not real to me because I didn't see anything. I don't pay any attention to it. I just keep my head down and try to do whatever I'm up to that day. But
do you have one of those things they call a computer?
I do have one of those things they call a computer. But
does it have the www thing on it?
Yeah, it does. But I try not to pay. I mean, I just I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. I feel like I got a lot of stuff to do. And
I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to be 100% honest.
Okay.
Do you ever Google yourself?
I've Googled myself after this whole incident because I wanted to see what. I'm not sure what that bell was for.
Well, it's a long story.
Gotcha.
It's an internal joke.
Okay, perfect. But just because I wanted to see, hey, what's going on, and I actually had a friend of mine say, "Man, you're getting killed." I'm like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, you're getting slaughtered in the media." And I thought, well, let me go see what this is all about. So I did, and there was.
Was that the first time you'd ever Googled yourself?
No, I'm sure I've done that in the past.
So when you do, like, do you see, all right, he's a horrible person, he's a bigot, he's a homophobe, and then there's ones like 25 best walk-up songs. He had one in St. Louis, and you go, oh, that's pretty, and you get distracted on that?
No, I actually was just focused on, this last time was just focused on, what everybody was saying, but I was encouraged because, a lot of the comments are in favor of not letting the HERO ordinance pass, and so that's what, it was a little bit encouraging. At least you didn't feel like you're out there and you were the only guy in the whole city that thought, wait a minute, this isn't right. This isn't what we should be doing. This is not something that I want to expose my family to. So that was an encouragement.
Was there the vote was 61% against, 39% in favor. Was there any moment along the way where your wife or your family said, or maybe you said, maybe I shouldn't have spoken out? No,
like I said, when the persecution is all digital, there's not. I mean, what are they really going to do? I mean, I didn't feel like I was putting myself or my family at risk by coming out and supporting a position that I believed in, and the reaction was one that I expected. And like we were talking about before, what I didn't expect was that that the mayor would make a personal attack, as far as she might could come out and say this guy's an idiot, redneck, bigot, but I didn't expect her to talk about my girls and talk about my family. So I was a little disappointed by that.
Did you have this conversation with your girls?
No, not before we did it, but afterwards, they know what's going on, so they were like, they just really my oldest two are the only two that are old enough to be aware of the ramifications of something like this. The younger two they don't have any idea, but we talked a little bit about it, and I mean, of course they're my kids, so why wouldn't they have this reaction? Like, why are we even voting on this? Why is that even a possibility? And I said, that's a great question, but anyway.
And that's the thing about this whole thing, is that this didn't extend any special protections. It didn't in any way prevent discrimination. This divided our city in a way that didn't think of all the effort and the money that was spent to create this major split in our society that absolutely wasn't needed and now has to be healed as a result of it. Did any of your old playing buddies call you up and say, Lance, what the heck, dude, you're in the news for politics?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of people say that, but it to your point, I mean, it's a shame. The way I looked at this whole ordinance was it's kind of like a Trojan horse. All the stuff that is good about the ordinance is already protected federally, so what's the point of foisting this ordinance on our city? And the only answer that I could come up with was that that it's an LGTB agenda type thing, and the way that the ordinance and I'm not against discriminating against anybody. I'm not against depriving anybody of their civil rights, but by the same token, the ordinance is so poorly written that.
Right. So the reason I wanted to talk to you today was because I think this is a great example of a case where individuals have to speak out on issues of their conscience. And there is nothing more distinctly American, there's nothing more distinctly patriotic and good and decent. And that there will be consequences, there will be pushback, blowback, backlash, insults, and we saw all of that in your case. And I want people to see you had, other than knowing you did the right thing, you had literally nothing to gain from this. You were better off just not saying anything, but you didn't.
Well, first of all, as a Christian, I feel like I have an obligation to take a stand for what I believe is right, and I feel like that that too many Christians are passive about. They don't want to offend anybody. They want to be careful that they're not trying to push their belief system on other people. And I'm not about pushing my belief system on other people, but I am about articulating my belief system, and I am about taking a stand for it when I have the opportunity. So this, to me, was what that was about. And you get called a bigot and intolerant and all that stuff, which to me, tolerance is the virtue that's killing this country. That we're tolerant of everything. Everything is okay, and as long as you want to do it, and as long as it feels good to you, then it's perfectly acceptable for you to do it. Those are the kind of things that lead you down a slippery slope that will you'll get in trouble in a hurry. So I guess the bottom line is, whenever I have an opportunity to make a stand for Christ and to make a stand for values that I think are right and that I know work in practice by applying them in everyday life, that I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna use my platform for good, or try to. And obviously, there's consequences for that, and you get called names, and you may have a black mark next to your name if you ever wanted a job in the media. But those are all things that I'm willing to risk for the sake of what I believe is right.
Did any of your friends or former teammates call up and suggest maybe you ought to back away from this?
I had a couple of people say, "Man, you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful. Those people that you are challenging have a loud voice," and that's certainly true. But what I don't quite understand is one of the great things about this country is that we can have differing opinions. I mean, we have two political parties. We have two different approaches, it seems, to how government should be run, and it's okay. I mean, it's okay for me to have an opinion that's different than your opinion. And I think one of the things what's become a shame is it seems like that anybody that has an opinion that is more from the right immediately gets castigated, called a bigot. If by voicing that opinion, whereas the other side can voice their opinion, and we're expected to just let's pander to that, let's listen to that, let's give them their say, let's treat them with respect, and it is a bit irritating that that's the situation.
You're the coach of the Second Baptist baseball team. What's your message to the kids if they ask you a question about what you learned from this and why you did this?
Well, my message to them is what I just told you. Hey, I mean, there is right and wrong. There is absolute truth. Don't let anybody tell you that truth is relative. And when you feel that truth is being violated, you've got to be bold and take a stand in favor of that truth. And so I think that we could talk for hours on my opinions on what I see in society and what I see in kids these days, but passivity is being encouraged, especially in men. I mean, let's be passive. Let's not make any waves, not take any strong stands. Let's not give offense to anybody. Whereas I feel like that men need to be strong. They need to be bold. They need to take a stand for what they believe is right. And I encourage my guys to, don't be afraid to be a leader. Don't be afraid to be the only one that has an opinion if you believe it's right. And in so doing, I think that's how you really become a man.
The Michael Berry Show. This is The Michael Berry Show.